is full of silence, and my soul is seeking you. You draw near me in your mercy, and your word makes all things new. You are faithful in the waiting, you are gentle in the storm. You have called me by your promise, you have kept my spirit warm. You are the song within my spirit, you are the lamp before my feet. You are the Lord of my salvation, in you my joy is complete. You are Lord, my heart's devotion, you are near in every breath. You are sweeter than the honey, you are life and conquer death. And I will sing of all your goodness, how you lifted me from deep. You are all my soul has longed for, you are Lord and you keep me. And you keep me. In the hour of my weakness, you have never turned aside. You have walked with me through sorrow, you have stayed here by my side. You have taken what was broken, you have clothed me now with grace. You have turned my mourning into dancing, and I feel this desert place.
What if a house under peace can become more than a dwelling? What if the life within it becomes so ordered, so gentle, and so luminous that all who come near begin to sense another kingdom? Tonight, we are opening the mystery of the house as a witness to the kingdom, because when the king's peace truly rests within a dwelling, it does not remain hidden behind the walls. It begins to speak. There comes a moment when the dwelling can no longer be understood only from within. What was once known chiefly by those who lived beneath its peace begins to take on another kind of visibility. The life of the house starts to bear meaning beyond itself. Its order becomes perceptible. Its atmosphere begins to tell the truth about the spirit that governs it. And this is where the mystery opens. The house that has been gathered in wisdom begins to stand in the world as a witness of the kingdom. This is not because the house begins to seek attention for itself. A true witness does not need to strain to be seen. It becomes visible because what it carries has substance. There are dwellings that remain shut within themselves, and even when entered, they offer no revelation beyond their walls. But there are also dwellings that have come under another measure, and these begin to speak without noise. Their life becomes perceptible. Their peace becomes recognizable. Their order begins to say something about the reality that governs them. This is the beginning of witness. That is why the house must be understood as more than a shelter. Shelter preserves life, but witness reveals life. Shelter keeps out the storm, but witness allows others to sense what kind of peace has been learned to remain within. Once the house has come under holy order, its life begins to exceed the boundaries of privacy. It becomes a sign that another order is possible on the earth. It becomes a small but living declaration that the king's peace is not only a promise for distant glory, but can be embodied in the dwelling. And perhaps this is one of the quietest wonders in all sacred life. The most persuasive testimony is often not the loudest. It is the testimony of a life made coherent. It is the testimony of a house in which unrest no longer rules. It is the testimony of rooms that breathe peace, of speech that does not devour, of welcome that does not pretend, of beauty that does not oppress, of order that does not crush. These things may seem small to the careless eye, but they are not small at all. They are the visible form of inward government. They reveal that the dwelling has been taken over by another spirit. So when we speak of the house as a witness of the kingdom, we are not first speaking of public reputation. We are speaking of spiritual visibility. We are speaking of the way a house begins to carry within itself the marks of a greater order. Those who come near may not be able to name everything they perceive, but they feel the difference. They sense that the life here is not being held together by force alone. They sense that there is a peace beneath the visible order. They sense that what appears outwardly has roots inwardly. This is why the witness of the house is so strong. It does not rely only on explanation. It is carried by atmosphere and by form. This also means that the witness of the house is not abstract. It is experienced through the ordinary. A threshold crossed in quietness may reveal more than many arguments. A table where peace is not lost may reveal more than many declarations. A room where one can breathe without inward pressure may reveal more than many teachings. A dwelling in which truth and gentleness remain together bears witness in a way that people often recognize before they understand. The kingdom becomes credible when it can be felt in lived space. That is why the threshold matters so much. A threshold is not merely a line of entry. It is the place where one atmosphere gives way to another. Outside, there may be agitation, suspicion, fragmentation, or weary striving. But when one steps across the threshold of a house that stands under holy order, something begins to change. The soul notices the crossing. It senses that the weight inside is different from the weight outside. This is not because the house has escaped the world, but because the peace within it has not surrendered to the same confusion. The threshold becomes a place of discernment. It reveals that another kind of life has been made possible here. And this is why the house can witness without boasting. It does not have to display itself. It does not have to claim importance. It only has to remain faithful to the peace it has received. The witness of the dwelling lies in the way it carries itself, in its steadiness, in its measured warmth, in its freedom from needless harshness, in its refusal to let disorder become the atmosphere of the rooms. The house becomes testimony precisely because it does not perform peace as a spectacle. It inhabits peace as a way of life. This kind of witness is deeply ancient. In the older scriptural world, places bore meaning: a city, a tent, a sanctuary, a house. These were never only locations. They became signs of what dwelt there. The same is true here. A dwelling under the king's order begins to speak of the one whose order it reflects. The testimony is not that the house is glorious in itself. The testimony is that the life of the king has touched it deeply enough for the dwelling to begin to resemble the peace from which it lives. The house becomes a small earthly likeness of a greater kingdom, so the ordered house bears witness in several ways at once. It witnesses by peace that does not break apart under ordinary life. It witnesses by order that does not descend into coldness. It witnesses by beauty that remains joined to truth. It witnesses by the way it receives without collapsing, and by the way it holds form without losing warmth. These are not accidental qualities. They are signs that the dwelling has learned to stand under a better rule. In that sense, the house becomes a visible parable. It shows that the kingdom is not only to be spoken of, it can take shape. And perhaps this is why those who enter such a house often carry away more than they expected. Even if they remain only briefly, they have crossed into a witness. They have touched a life that is ordered differently. They have encountered a peace that has become architectural, relational, and atmospheric. They may leave with no grand explanation, yet still know they have passed through a threshold of meaning. Something in them begins to understand that another way of dwelling exists. This is one of the quiet powers of the house as a witness. It can awaken longing simply by being true. This makes the house a profoundly public reality, even when it is externally hidden. Public, not in the sense of fame, but in the sense that what it is cannot remain entirely concealed. If the house is truly governed by the king's peace, then the witness of that peace will be perceptible. Its effects will be felt in those who come near. Its difference will be noticed in the way life is held there. Hiddenness and witness are not opposites here. The house may remain humble and still become luminous. It may remain local and still reveal the kingdom. So the movement becomes clear. The light within the dwelling does not stop at the inward atmosphere. It extends into visible testimony. The peace that first ordered the rooms now begins to speak beyond them. The lamp that gave form to daily life now shines as a sign of the life of the king. The house becomes more than a place where people live. It becomes a place where the kingdom can be seen in miniature. Not reduced, but faithfully reflected. And this is why the witness of the house is so precious. It does not argue that peace is possible. It embodies that peace. It does not merely claim that the king orders life. It shows what ordered life can feel like. It does not merely speak of refuge. It becomes a place where refuge can be sensed. In this way, the house under the holy order becomes one of the gentlest declarations of the kingdom. It tells the truth about the king through the life it carries. So when we gather these threads together, the house stands before us, not as a private retreat, but as a visible testimony. The ordered dwelling becomes a witness because its peace has become perceptible. The lamp of the house shines beyond the inner rooms. Those who enter begin to feel the difference of another order. The threshold becomes a crossing into a more gathered life, and the dwelling itself becomes a small but living witness of the king's peace upon the earth. That is the beauty of the house's witness. It does not need to become something other than a house in order to reveal the kingdom. It only needs to become true to the peace that governs it. And when that peace is allowed to dwell fully, the house itself becomes a sign that what God orders in wisdom can be seen, can be felt, and can quietly call others toward the beauty of his reign. And when the house becomes a witness of the kingdom, it not only reveals peace to those already near, it begins to stand in contrast to the disorder outside it. Not a contradiction of pride, not the contradiction of self-exaltation, but the quiet contradiction of another life made possible. The world outside may still move in restlessness, suspicion, rivalry, and inward fragmentation, yet the dwelling under the king's peace begins to testify that such conditions are not the final law of human life. It stands there as a small but living protest against confusion. This is why the witness of the house is so weighty. It does not merely suggest that peace would be nice. It shows that peace can take form. It shows that order can become inhabitable. It shows that beauty can remain joined to truth without collapsing into vanity or harshness. The house becomes a visible answer to a hidden question many carry within themselves. Can life actually be lived another way? And that is one reason the threshold matters so deeply. It is not only an entrance into a building, it is an encounter with possibility. For some, that threshold may be crossed almost without thought. For others, it may feel like stepping from one world into another. Outside, there may be noise so constant that the soul no longer knows how burdened it has become. But upon crossing into a dwelling that stands under holy order, something begins to loosen. The heart recognizes before the mind can explain. There is a different weight here, a different pace, a different way of being held, and in that moment, the threshold becomes more than a boundary. It becomes a witness in transition. This is very beautiful because it means the house not only testifies to what it contains, but also to what it offers in crossing. It offers orientation to the disoriented. It offers gatheredness to the inwardly scattered. It offers a living contrast to those who have forgotten what peace feels like. And yet it does this gently. The witness of the threshold is not aggressive. It does not force itself upon the one who enters. It simply makes another order available to be felt. And perhaps this is why a true house of witness carries such quiet authority. It does not need to explain itself at every step. Its life has already become an interpretation. Its order has already become a kind of speech. The threshold speaks, the rooms speak, the table speaks, the tone of the dwelling speaks. Everything begins to say in its own way that this house is being governed by more than convenience, more than habit, more than human tension. It is being governed by a peace that has learned to abide. This also gives the house a kind of prophetic quality. Not prophetic in the narrow sense of utterance alone, but prophetic in the deeper sense that it makes visible what is often hidden from the world. It reveals that the kingdom is not merely an invisible hope. It can cast its shape into earthly life. A dwelling can bear its marks. A threshold can carry its atmosphere. A household can begin to reflect its order. In this way, the house becomes a witness, not only by preserving peace, but by unveiling the possibility of peace to others. So, the house under the king's peace does more than remain stable within itself. It begins to radiate significance. The one who enters may feel that they have not only stepped into a house, but into a sign. Not a sign made of spectacle, but a sign made of coherence. A sign that says what is holy can be warm. A sign that says what is ordered can still be merciful. A sign that says what is beautiful can still be true. Taken together, these things are powerful because many have only known broken versions of them. The witness of the house reintroduces them in living form. And that is why this mystery still reaches further. Because once the house becomes a visible sign of the king's peace, it cannot help but begin to affect those who come near it. The witness becomes an encounter, and the encounter begins to open toward reception. The kingdom does not only wish to be seen at the threshold, it wishes, in its own holy way, to gather the weary further in. And when the encounter begins to open toward reception, the witness of the house becomes even more living. Because a house may be seen from without, and it may even be recognized as peaceful from the threshold, but the deeper testimony begins when that peace is allowed to touch another life more directly. The witness of the dwelling is not fulfilled merely by noticing that it is different. It deepens when that difference begins to receive them. In that sense, the house does not only stand as a sign, it becomes a place where the king's peace may be tasted. This does not yet move fully into the fuller teaching on hospitality that belongs to the next video, but it does show us something essential about witness, Witness draws near. A true testimony does not remain frozen in display. It begins to create room for encounter. The ordered house becomes more than something observed. It becomes something felt. The one who enters is no longer only comparing it to the disorder outside. They begin to experience what another order does to the soul. This is why the house as a witness is so powerful. It does not merely announce peace. It begins to let peace be known. And perhaps this is why the threshold is such a sacred place in this mystery. It is the meeting point between perception and participation. At first, the one who comes near may only sense that the house is different. But as they cross further in, the atmosphere begins to work upon them more deeply. The quiet steadiness of the dwelling begins to reach inward. The order of the rooms, the unforced peace of the speech, the lack of inward violence in the life of the house, all these things begin to minister. The witness becomes almost sacramental in its effect. It carries more than information, it carries presence. This is why the ordered house becomes so precious, as a sign of the kingdom. It does not bear witness only by existing as a contrast. It bears witness by becoming a place where another life can actually be encountered. The kingdom is no longer only spoken of as an idea beyond the world. It becomes touchable in the atmosphere, in the rhythm, in the quality of life held within the dwelling. Even before deeper words are exchanged, the soul may begin to know that this house stands under another government. So, the witness of the house is not passive. It works by nearness. It works by the kind of life that can be entered. It works by allowing others, even briefly, to step inside peace that has been made habitable. And this is one reason such a witness can be so difficult to forget. Words may fade, but an encounter with true peace often leaves a mark. A person may not remember every sentence spoken in a house, yet still remember the feeling of entering it. They may not remember every visible detail, yet still remember that the dwelling carried rest. The witness abides because it was not only heard, it was experienced. And that is why the house under the king's peace begins to bear quiet authority in the world. Not authority of domination, but authority of reality. It speaks because it is. It reveals because it has substance. It offers a living answer to inner hunger without always naming that hunger first. Those who come near may realize, perhaps only gradually, that they are not only seeing a peaceful house, they are seeing what becomes possible when life has been gathered under wisdom. The house becomes a testimony because it has become believable. This also helps us understand why the witness of the dwelling can be so gentle and so strong at once. Gentleness alone can be dismissed if it has no structure. Structure alone can become severe if it has no warmth. But the house under holy order holds both together. It is gentle enough to receive and strong enough to remain itself. It is ordered enough to reveal peace and warm enough to make that peace desirable. That union is one of the deepest signs of the king's life within the house. The witness is persuasive because it carries both truth and rest. So the ordered dwelling now begins to stand before us in a fuller light. It is not only the place where peace has been preserved. It is the place where peace has become visible enough to be recognized, steady enough to be trusted, and real enough to be encountered. The threshold becomes a crossing into witness. The rooms become a field of quiet revelation. The life within the house becomes a small but living manifestation of the kingdom's order. And all of this shows that the witness of the house is not theoretical. It is embodied. And once this is seen, the whole mystery becomes clearer. The house does not remain private because the peace within it has become radiant. The ordered dwelling becomes testimony because its life has become coherent under the king's rule. The lamp of the house shines beyond the walls because true light cannot remain without a witness. Those who enter feel the peace of another order because the threshold itself becomes a place of crossing. And the house stands as a visible witness of the king's peace because what has been formed within it has become perceptible without. So the house, as witness, is one of the loveliest signs of the kingdom. It shows that the king's peace does not remain distant, abstract, or unreachable. It can take shape. It can enter walls and rooms. It can order a speech and a table. It can gather daily life. And then, once it has done that, it can begin to shine outward so that others may sense the difference of a life under holy order. The witness of the house tells the truth about the king by showing what his peace looks like when it is allowed to dwell. And perhaps that is one of the deepest reasons this mystery matters. Many long for signs of the kingdom while overlooking the witness of the dwelling. But a house ordered in peace is itself a sign. A threshold crossed into gentleness is itself a sign. A life made coherent enough to be felt by others is itself a sign. The kingdom need not always appear first in spectacle. Sometimes it appears as a house that has learned how to hold peace so truly that all who come near can sense another order waiting there. So when we gather this movement into its final shape, we can say it with clarity. The house that has come under the king's peace does not remain hidden in itself. It becomes a visible testimony. Its order speaks, its threshold reveals, its atmosphere ministers, its very life bears witness that another reign is possible. In that way, the dwelling becomes more than a place of rest for those within it. It becomes a sign for those without it, a witness of the kingdom standing quietly on the earth. That is the beauty of the house as witness. It does not need to become something other than a house in order to reveal the kingdom. It only needs to become true to the peace that governs it. And when that peace is allowed to dwell fully, the house itself becomes a sign that what God orders in wisdom can be seen, can be felt, and can quietly call others toward the beauty of his reign. And so the house does not remain private. Its peace becomes visible. Its threshold becomes a crossing. Its life becomes a witness of the king's order. This is the beauty of the house under holy peace. Not only a dwelling for those within, but a testimony for those who come near. A quiet sign that another kingdom is already making itself known. Thank you, family, for being here. If this teaching helped you, please like, comment, and share. It truly helps this message reach those who are seeking. To our new subscribers, welcome. And if you'd like to go deeper, we invite you to join as a member. The link is in the description and on our homepage. We are praying for you and standing with you in the light of Messiah, he and Messiah, she. If you'd like to support the ministry, you can visit our store or bless our dear brother Michael via the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description below, which also includes a link to our second store with new designs. Thank you for your love and encouragement, and stay tuned for the next video. May the spirit of wisdom and peace rest upon you always.